Hi everyone, welcome. What you see here is an assortment of different types of fruits. I think there's a couple plums and a banana peel, and what's over here might be either apple or pear or a combination of both. And here we've got a day's worth of coffee as well as the coffee filter, even a soiled paper towel. The stuff that they're getting today out here in my outdoor worm bag is going to include only those types of beddings, such as this paper here, and some cardboard, all kinds of bedding materials which I believe are going to have a better chance at breaking down than if we were to use what we've been putting in here as bedding recently, which are the leaves. Since it's autumn and in my region the deciduous trees do drop their leaves, I've got lots and lots of leaves all over the place. But the one drawback I find when I place leaves into my systems as bedding, they bring their stems with them, and then those stems seem to stick around long beyond the point in time when the worms have eaten all the leafy matter. All these little sticks and stems remain. So I believe, since these worms have been living in this bag here now for 234 days, fed 21 times so far, today being feeding number 22, it seemed to me like, not just because of the age, but possibly also because the temperatures out here are dropping, I think it's time to start gearing these worms up for being moved out of their space and relocated into a new environment. So I'm not sure, I'm almost sure, but I always tend to qualify the things that I claim as being, you know, kind of uncertain. But this to me here looks like the cocoon of a worm, and based on its very greenish color, it seems to me like it's almost like if it was just put there. It's like a very fresh new cocoon, because cocoons that have been around and are close to the point in time when the babies are gonna come out of the cocoon, a cocoon that's been around for a few weeks already has turned color to a somewhat darker brownish color versus being more green. So that cocoon is got a few weeks to go before any babies will come out of it. And you know, it is the environment that tells the cocoon whether or not it's safe for the babies to come out. Cocoons can just sit around all winter, I guess, too, if that should be the case, waiting for milder weather, or I believe when things are not moist enough, if there's just dryness. A variety of different things can influence the pace at which a worm cocoon will have its babies come out. I just thought I saw another cocoon that was a little bit darker in color. I thought I'd try to show it, but it slipped through my fingertips. So it's always a good sign to me when there's cocoons floating around in my worm systems. It tells me that the worms feel like they've got sufficient space to expand their population into. It tells me that they're comfortable. So seems like a good thing when there's cocoons popping up on the scene in your worm systems. I tell you, at this age though, 234 days of age, I'm even wondering if it might make good sense to consider today's feeding as possibly one of their last. Today's a nice mild day out here in my garden, but according to the extended forecast, this is the last day like this that we're going to have. And starting today, it seems like we're going to have much cooler temperatures, especially in the overnight hours. On certain days, we're definitely dropping below freezing. And I believe that the game plan, this piece of banana peel, was put in here 5 weeks ago. No, I don't even know. More like 4 weeks ago, I believe, somewhere around there. And I believe for some time now we've been discussing the possibility of these worms being bought inside to keep them comfortable and warm so that they remain active and productive, and so that they can continue breaking stuff down for me. So I thought I'd possibly bring these little guys inside so that they can finish their work in this system, perhaps be moved out of this bag and just be relocated into a plastic tub where they might be able to finish off their work in here, break down all these materials closer to the system being mostly castings versus being mostly bedding and other things, and then start paving the way for these castings to get harvested at some point in the near future. Nice little worm ball, that's for sure. Every now and then the system does prove to me that it's got a good number of worms living in it. I believe that this is one of those cases. Worms kind of huddling in the middle of the system because they, I guess they're trying to steer clear of the cool temperatures encroaching from the outer edges. It's amazing how quickly the worms retreat out of view, but only one or two actually fell off my hand. I think the majority of them are all still just right here in my hand, except they just went down to a point where they were out of view, out of harm's way, not visible to predators, not out in the sunlight where they could dry, just trying to shield themselves from danger, which is kind of cool how they all seem to know exactly what to do. And you know what, I bet you if we were to dig down deep we would find almost as many worms hanging out over there in that next handful as we bumped into in the first big handful. So this system does appear to have a fairly healthy population living in it. I don't recall how many worms we started with. I did grab those few bits of statistics about the age of the system and the times, how many times it had been fed out here and how many days have passed since the last check-in, but I didn't take note of how many worms we started the system with originally. But you know, that's pretty old information at this point. Provided the worms have space into which they can expand their population, they'll usually do just that. So even though we might have had some sort of an estimate for how many worms started the system when we began this outdoor worm bag version 5.0, it's pretty likely that there's many more in here than there were when we began. So over here were some things that we located along the way, some food scraps. Oh my goodness. Somebody's operating a power tool in the neighboring yard, so I'm not sure if it's going to interfere much with my narration, but it kind of makes me feel like now would be a good time to start driving this check-in to completion. So why don't we just proceed with giving them their feeding and getting things wrapped up here. So as you saw, I had taken the feeding zone indicator that was out here previously and just incorporated into the bedding that we added, along with what had been the top covering piece of cardboard, corrugated, that had been originally round in shape and then gradually started breaking down into little chunks and has now gotten to the point where I believe it's ready to just be utilized by the worms as bedding and eventually as food down in the feeding area. And I guess we'll just have to proceed with no real top covering, but we will have ourselves a feeding zone indicator. So at least we have something out on the surface. Not that we even need it, but it's just tradition in my worm bins to do it that way. I took this stuff out of the freezer perhaps an hour and a half ago, and I tried to break it up into little bits so that we wouldn't be introducing stuff that was completely frozen down into here, since these poor little wormies already need to contend with chilly temperatures out here anyway. Why compound the situation? Try to cut them a little bit of a break by I do have the noise reduction, the wind noise reduction feature on my camera turned on, and I'm really hoping that it helps cut down some of the ambient noise that's surrounding me here today. For whatever reason, it's such a noisy day out here in my yard, whether it's traffic rolling by or neighbors operating power tools, or even 2 properties over. I just saw the landscaper arrive before and hop on their lawnmower, but I believe that they've gone around the structure to the other side of the building because now I don't hear them so much. But there's just all kinds of noise happening here today, and maybe that's just a sign that says, you know what, you've had enough fun, time to let these little wormies get back to work. So I've attempted to blend in as much of this leafy matter with the system's surrounding materials. Perhaps if we were to just do a little bit even more of pulling out the more broken down stuff that's around the edges and combining that with some more of this remaining leafy matter that's out here, then we'll have a really nice amount of residual bedding blended into the material at large, hopefully exposing it to a lot more worm traffic and breakdown than if it just sat out here on the surface. And I guess it's really the stems of the leaves that I'd like to see get exposed to moisture and worm traffic so that they could potentially break down. And now the breeze is picking up, so like I said, hopefully the wind noise filter on my camera is going to help us out here a little bit and try to limit the amount of racket that's going to interfere with me trying to get my message across. But that's about it for our check-in anyway, so I think the only thing remaining here is for me to just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And how do you like that? One other little piece of noise. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but there's a plane flying overhead now. We're getting every type of possible noise out here today. So yeah, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching and for listening. Hopefully you can hear me. We shall see. All right, take care. Bye now.